And we're going to Britain now, where a court says Wikileaks founder Julian Assange cannot immediately be extradited to the United States to face espionage charges there. High Court judges say they want further assurances about what will happen to him. If the US fails to provide those assurances over the next 3 weeks, the court will give Assange permission to appeal extradition on grounds including breach of freedom of expression and because he might receive the death penalty. From all that, we are now joined by DW's Charlotte Chelsom-Pill from London. Charlotte, tell us the latest regarding today's court decision.
Well, I want to put today's decision into a little bit of context. Had the right to an appeal, a final appeal for Julian Assange, been rejected today, that would have been the end of the legal road here for him in the UK and would have paved the way for his extradition to the US, where his supporters say he faces 175 years in prison, something that his wife says would have been tantamount to a death sentence. Now, instead today, what we've had is something of a delay on that decision. As you said there, the judges have said that they are seeking assurances on several points from the US, including on free speech protections, and that Julian Assange won't face the death penalty if extradited and convicted. The US has 3 weeks to provide those assurances, and if it fails to do so, then a full appeal can indeed go ahead. Now, this is something of a partial victory for Julian Assange. Clearly, his supporters would have liked to have seen that full appeal granted today. But what the judges did say was that he had legitimate prospects for success on 3 of the 9 grounds for appeal. So while it's more of a wait, there is still clearly some way to go in this legal battle.
Charlotte, stay with us, please. We'll come back to you in a minute after we are taking a closer look at Assange's situation, because he had his extradition order confirmed in 2021, but has continued to fight against the ruling from his prison cell in London. And those closest to him fear this could be his final legal challenge.
February 2024, a hearing on Julian Assange's appeal of his extradition to the US. His wife pled for his release.
His health is in decline, mentally and physically. His life is at risk. Every single day he stays in prison. And if he is extradited, he will die. But it's not just about him being extradited. Julian should never have been put in prison in the first place.
The United Nations Special Rapporteur on Torture also called for the US to drop its case.
I am very worried about Mr. Assange's health, his ability to survive the extradition and the real likelihood of suicide. I'm worried about the conditions of detention in the United States, where they use solitary confinement on a regular basis, and that this would cause irreparable harm to Mr. Assange.
Assange faces significant legal danger in the US, a prison sentence of up to 175 years. He's been a wanted man since 2010 after his whistleblowing forum Wikileaks published classified US Army material supplied by an intelligence analyst. The leak contained documents and video footage from the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. Some of the footage was shocking, seemingly implicating US troops in possible war crimes.
I believe that if those killings were lawful under the rules of engagement, then the rules of engagement are wrong. Deeply wrong.
Many applauded Assange's fearlessness in shedding light on the murky side of armed conflict. He was showered with awards and voted Reader's Choice for Times Person of the Year in 2010. But for many others, the leaks were nothing short of treason, and Assange a dangerous enemy of the state. In November 2010, Swedish authorities issued an arrest warrant for Assange after 2 women accused him of sexual assault and rape. He lost the legal battle to fight extradition to Sweden. While on bail, Assange sought refuge in London's Ecuadorian embassy. It became his home for the next 7 years. But in 2019, Ecuador's new government had enough of its controversial embassy lodger. Police were invited in and arrested Assange. His supporters say that the US effort to extradite him is an attack on free speech itself.
This case has alarming implications for journalism and press freedom around the world, not least of all as he would be the first publisher tried under the US Espionage Act, which lacks a public interest defense. We would add from Reporters Without Borders that there should be a political solution, but that it must involve no further time in prison for Julian in any country.
A warrior for press freedom or a careless betrayer of sensitive secrets. Assange's case has divided people ever since his legal saga started.
Well, Charlotte, what do Assange's supporters say in reaction to this?
Well, his wife, who you heard in that report there, spoke outside court today, very clearly dismayed after that decision. She said she was astonished. She said the entire case has been shameful, a shame on every democracy. She said she described Julian Assange as a political prisoner and a journalist who exposed US wrongdoing. Now, that's a view backed by a number of groups, including Amnesty International and Reporters Without Borders. They say that journalists around the world should be concerned by this case. The US, on the other hand, say that Julian Assange's actions went beyond journalism. They said that he was soliciting, stealing, and indiscriminately publishing classified documents, something that they say put lives at risk.
Chelsom-Pill's there reporting. From London, thank you, Charlotte.